Hi guys, welcome to another tactical video. It's another Sisters of Battle video, and I'm talking about Battle Sisters at last. So, basically let's get straight into it. Battle Sisters are of course a troop choice. They're the only troop choice that Sisters of Battle can actually take. So it's a bit of a no-brainer, everyone's going to have Battle Sisters in their army. So because of that, we don't need to go whether they're worth taking or not. You know, they're a must. If you want to play Sisters of Battle, you've got to have Battle Sisters. Okay, so that means we can just focus on how to get the most out of this unit, and there's actually a hell of a lot of ways to do that, and it varies depending on what you need. So unlike the Space Marine Tactical Squads, which basically are outfitted for any kind of role in the battle itself, Battle Sisters, basically you outfit them previously to fill a role, and then generally they stick to that role, and there is some leeway there as to what you could use them for, but generally they're going to struggle a lot more to adapt to things that they aren't suited for. So with that in mind, when you're taking your unit and giving them upgrades, make sure the upgrades you give them support the role you need them for. So, okay, I'll give you plenty of different examples. Okay, we'll start with the simplest. Okay, straightforward Battle Sister Squad, no upgrades. That's 125 points. Okay, all with bolters, all with bolt pistols, all with frag and crack grenades. One Sister Superior, and that's it. Okay. Fairly expensive, but remember they all have power armor. They still have the same kind of shooting output as a Space Marine, and of course they have the Axe of Faith and Shield of Faith. So because of that, you are getting quite a decent amount. I'd say the points are fair for what they do. The problem is basically with a squad like this, generally you're going to want them to sit on objectives. You're purely taking them just to get the objectives. So without any upgrades, I wouldn't even take a Rhino really. I would get them to take the objectives in your area. So the best way to run them really is just to put them in reserve, if you can, if you've got that space there. Okay, put them in reserve. When they come in, they walk on from the board edge, run them onto an objective, and then you can take it. If there's any enemies in the way, they can support fire, but generally the rest of your army then has to take the role of keeping those objectives clear. This can be quite good if you're playing a very defensive game. That doesn't always mesh well with the Sisters' playstyle because they're generally quite an aggressive army due to their short ranges. But certain ways you can play defensive. In that situation, then Bare Bones Battle Sister Squad will do the job. Okay, so there's that. Then you've got the other things. So basically what happens is, for every 10 Sisters you take, you can take one special weapon and one heavy weapon in general. So what does that mean? Sorry, I also meant that you could take 2 special weapons or one heavy weapon, and one special weapon. So there's an either or for the heavy weapon option. Obviously I haven't got one here, there's 2 special weapons, but generally they're all the usual options. The only thing Sisters don't have is plasma. So other than combi plasmas and plasma pistols, other than that you're stuck with flamers, melter guns, storm bolters. Okay, now that's not too bad, because also with the heavy weapon options you get that extra thing, because you can also take a heavy flamer, which, you know, usual troops can't, and that's really nice. So going back to the original point, what do you want this one squad to do? Now look at each Battle Sister squad individually. So I have this one squad here. I say I'm going to fight Tyranids. I know there's lots of swarms coming, or guardsmen or something like that. Okay, I'm going to be in the face. I'm going to be in a Rhino, that kind of thing, driving up the table. I know they're going to come for me. So in that situation, flamers are a good option. So you can give them Normal flamer, you could take another normal flamer if you wanted, or you could go all out for extra points to get the heavy flamer. In that situation, I probably would go for the heavy flamer. Okay, then you could get a combi flamer as well on the Sister Superior, all that sort of thing. So that's nice. Then you've got an effective squad there. It's anti-infantry. Remember, your shooting with your Axe of Faith and stuff tends to be better. The one drawback with using template weapons on a Battle Sister squad is that they can be fairly weak on their own, unsupported. So they need to run in support, so you can lose that expensive heavy flamer quite easily. And also, because of the nature of the Axe of Faith, basically preferred enemy, basically those are then wasted on the flamer units. I mean, it's a small thing, but every time you fire a flamer, you know, that preferred enemy doesn't work. So you kind of, ever so slightly, you're gimping them ever so slightly. I mean, it's not a major thing, but it's just something. Other options are, of course, melter guns. Generally, you want to, if you do this, you want to run just 2 melter guns in the squad, rather than the multi-melter. The multi-melter would be very defensive. You'd have to stay still, hang back, and shoot, basically. Or unless you get really lucky, get that snapfire. Generally, I don't think the multi-melter is a good place for here. If you were going to take it, then you'd probably take it on the Retributors, or much better is taking it on Immolators. But, you know, melter guns are good enough. It means you can get out, fire at full ballistic skill. If you put them in a Rhino, which is generally good when you've got the flamers or the melter guns, then that's a good idea to do. So, from that, you can probably guess that running a Rhino with any kind of squad setup like that is probably the best way to do it, because that means you can get where you need and you've got that protection for the sisters. And of course they can all go in. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that there is another way to run them, and basically it capitalises on the sisters' main weakness, and that is range. They have very short range weapons. Now, there is a way around this. What you can do, so as you can see here, is to take 1 Stormbolter as a special weapon. It's very cheap, okay? And then on another person you could take another Stormbolter, and also the Sister Superior can take a Stormbolter. So that's 3 Stormbolters, and it's incredibly cheap, okay, in the unit. And add that to the other normal bolters, and that's a lot of weapons you're firing at 24-inch range, okay? Same ballistic skill as a Space Marine, and of course you can get that preferred enemy. So that's one thing to consider, is you can get decent range shooting, and if in that situation a transport is not important, because you can stay at that 24-inch range, you know. And then you could even go a step further, and rather than taking two Stormbolters as the special weapons, you could take 1 Stormbolter here, 1 Stormbolter and the Sister Superior, and then a Heavy Bolter. Okay, and using the Heavy Bolter you get 36-inch range, 3 shots instead of 2, and also it's a higher strength and better AP. So it's only 2 points more expensive than the Stormbolter as well. Now, of course, the problem then is that if you move with the Heavy Bolter, then it can only snapfire. But, you know, it's not too bad. And again, if you're playing them defensively, like if you had the multi-melter, then it's good. It's good if you got the gun line. It means you can reach out, and you can. It basically means you can outshoot Space Marines at 24-inch, because you're firing more shots, and you're firing better than they are, basically. So that's nice in Wars of Attrition. You know, they can hang back, they can reach out and touch units while they're still sat on their objectives. You know, so it's quite nice. I'm going to go more into detail on her in a minute, because there's quite a lot to get through, but basically I'm going through the thingy weapons first. Okay, so bear that in mind, and I'm going to come back to that later on, because it's quite a good tactic you can use there. Now, the other thing I'm going to mention now is the Simulacrum Imperialis. Okay, if you take one of these in the squad, it's quite expensive. It's 20 points. Okay, and generally people don't like them because of that. And basically, you can put it on any model though. Okay, if you have it, generally speaking, the best person in the squad to have it is the Sister Superior. Now the reason for that is, I mean, okay, she's vulnerable to challenges, but it means that you can use the Lookout Sir rolls. Okay, so if someone's going to hit the Simulacrum Imperialis, okay, then you can roll Lookout Sir, and you've got that chance of getting rid of the wound. Okay, so she won't die. Now that means you get to keep the benefits of that. You get to keep any other benefits and stuff. Of course, the drawback is it means that everything expensive becomes on this one thing. So if they take out this one model, you lose a lot more in one go. So more so than in other armies. More so than in other armies, the Sister Superior ends up becoming a very powerful model that is quite required to stay alive. But that would be up to you, basically. Personally, I tend to take my chances and just leave a separate, shove it near the back, that kind of thing. Keep the Sister Superior separate, and then it's 2 priority targets in addition to other special weapons, as opposed to just the one and the special weapons. So it gives any precision strikes coming in, it gives your opponent more to worry about. Now, as I was saying, people don't usually take these because they're expensive, and often they're seen as being better placed in other units. But that's not necessarily true, because in other units like Dominions, it makes them twin link their Axe of Faith, so it's good to have that reroll to get it to go off. You've also got Retributors, which get rending. You know, it's very nice. The thing is, the one thing Battle Sisters have over the others is that they actually have 3 different Acts of Faith. Okay, you've got Preferred Enemy in Shooting, you've got Preferred Enemy in the Assault, and you've got the Automatic Rally. Okay, so it's nice to have those go off, and it's nice to have that reroll. So in a way, you're getting, you know, you got 3 tests there covered by the Simulacrum Imperialis instead of just the 1. Now, I'm not saying you should definitely take it, okay? In fact, I would say I would leave it out, except for when you have a full-size squad of sisters. And the reason for that is, I'll explain later on, but if you've seen the Sisters Death Star build that I showed in another video, then you'll see why. What are you doing? That's the cat. She's come to investigate. So yeah, that's one thing to think about. Okay, so we'll get into it. Sister Superior, then let's focus on her. Okay, she can take the usual kind of upgrades. She can take Melter Bombs, which is very nice. Something I would certainly consider, especially on squad with 2 melter guns, or even the Flamer squad, because it means he's more adaptable and you've got something to fight back against monstrous creatures. Other things she can take is combo weapons, of course. She can take power weapons. Now, personally, I wouldn't really bother here because, again, it's just adding extra cost. And with her being weapon skill free, strength free, even the power maul is only going to make you strength 5, and then you're not denying any armor. I mean, you might get lucky, but there's not enough attacks there to make the most of it. And you know, they're just not built for the combat. They can hold their own sometimes, but you'd have to build them specifically for that, and it starts to get, there's better ways of doing it basically than taking power weapons. If you did take power weapons, again, as I say, you need to build them for a specific purpose. So if I know I'm going against orcs, I'd take a maul. If I know I'm going to be going up against like Deathwing or something, I'd take the axe, that kind of thing. I can't remember if she can take an Eviscerator. I think she can take an Eviscerator, which is basically like a Chain Fist, which is quite nice, but it's expensive. You strike at Initiative 1. It's good against vehicles, but then you also have the Melter Bombs, and as I mentioned before, she doesn't really have enough attacks to make the most of taking an Eviscerator over a Melter Bomb. Okay, if it's a character with lots of attacks, then the Eviscerator is a better choice because you're getting those more chances to get that penetrating roll. But as she's only got like 2 base, then you're better off with the Melter Bombs as an option. Okay, so that's more or less her covered. Combi weapons, yes, to complement the rest of the squad if you want. Otherwise, a Stormbolt is a nice cheap upgrade for her. The other thing is plasma pistols. Now, again, I mentioned this in the Death Star video, Sister's Death Star. She can take 2 plasma pistols by swapping both her weapons out. Okay, that's nice when you've got preferred enemy in the squad, because that means you get to re-roll those ones on the gets hot roll. Okay. Also, because she's got Precision Strike as a character, it means she can allocate those wounds as she rolls a 6. So again, that's really nice. The problem is it's really expensive. It's 15 points per plasma pistol, and generally you want to keep these units cheap and with a purpose. And plasma is a kind of catch-all thing. It doesn't have the specific purpose that other things do, and even if it did, it's only the one character there, and you're paying above what you need. You know, if you want that plasma, you'd be better off getting Imperial Guard allies and taking veterans with plasma. You get a lot more there, and it's cheaper. Okay, so with that in mind, I would say leave her with special weapon Stormbolter if you can. Otherwise, focus on the special weapons. Okay, give her a combi weapon. Keep it cheap. Okay, unless you're going for that Death Star, in which case points don't really matter. Okay, so the last thing really is basically the big squad, the 20 sisters that you can take. Okay, because you have to take at least 10, but you can buy them. I think there are 12 points for a model. I can't quite remember, 12, 13. I think it's 12. Okay, so 12 for a power armored sister is pretty good. Okay. If you're going to take extra, I'd say take the full 20, okay? You can't take any extra special weapons or heavy weapons, but it means you can exploit the ones you've got slightly more. Now, how I like to do this, and it ends up being fairly cheap, okay, is you take a Stormbolter special weapon, Stormbolter on the Sister Superior, and then you take a Heavy Bolter. Let's just say, I know this is a Flamer, but let's say this is a Heavy Flamer. I wouldn't really bother with a Simulacrum in this situation, but if I had the points or whatever, it's nice to have. Okay. Now what you do is, you take this big squad of 20, and when you deploy them, you start them right up against the line. So say my finger's the line, okay. Deploy them right up against the line, okay. And to deploy them, I'll try and show you from above if I stop knocking them over. Okay, when you deploy them, make sure she's right near the front, the Heavy Bolter, okay? And then have some others go right next to her. Obviously not the Sister Superior or the Stormbolters, but basically you want the others like here, so they're slightly in front, the bases are slightly in front, okay? If you have a row of like 5, say going across here, sorry, 5, so 2 on that side, 2 on that side, okay? They're right up against the line, so they're more likely to get in that 24-inch range, okay? But also, that means any incoming shooting that you take will have to go on these normal bolter girls first. Then you can have your Stormbolters and stuff further back. Now, the reason you want the Heavy Bolter really close as well is for this. When you're moving 20, okay, you can move the others the full 6 inches, so they move 6 inches forward, okay? So say they're moving. Then you can move the ones back here forward as well, okay, like so. So you move all these ones back here, move them forward, and you'll find that by the end of the first turn of movement, okay, your unit will be in 24 inches of range, and you'll still have 2 inches coherency with the heavy weapon, okay, who will now be more or less at the back of the squad, but of course she's got 36-inch range, so she's already in range, okay? So that means you've moved, she hasn't, so she gets to use her full ballistic skill still. And the benefit of that means that everyone gets to fire at full ballistic skill. Everyone gets to fire at 24 inches. And of course, if you use your Act of Faith, you can re-roll those ones to hit. And with the 2 storm bolters in there, you're getting 2 extra bolt shots and then the heavy bolter. Okay, that's a hell of a lot of DACA at 24 inches. Okay, there's a lot of shooting. And the good thing there is that basically you're gonna outshoot things at the maximum range. So yeah, better speed this up, running out of time. So yeah, you can outshoot things. So bear that in mind. You know, if something comes towards you, then at 12 inches, then you're getting even more shooting. Okay, but generally you want to kind of keep them at the 24-inch range because that's when the big unit of bolters will excel. Okay, because you'll be able to outshoot the other guy. Yeah. Now transports is the last thing we need to go over. Basically, if you've got a squad of 10, I'd take a Rhino, unless, like I said, you were keeping it really cheap. But I would take a Rhino if it had melter guns or flamers, get up in the enemy's face, okay? Do what you need to do, take those objectives. It gives you that versatility. If you have a big squad of 20, or you just want some extra stuff, you could take an Immolator as a kind of fire support, so you could take one with the heavy bolters or the heavy flamers. But they get pricey pretty quick. So it's good if you're going for a lot of armour. Personally, I don't really bother. But yeah, it's something you can do. You could take it with the multi-melters, and then you've got a lot of anti-tank there, you know, where with these doing anti-infantry. So you've got a lot of options there, but remember, when you're building, think what you need a Battle Sister unit to do, okay? Build them for that role. Then with your other Battle Sisters, think what you need those to do. It could be a completely different role. Build them for that role, okay? That's pretty much the essence of it, okay? And, you know, they'll do alright. Try and protect them. Don't worry about throwing them in harm's way if need be. They're best, basically, accompanying other units that really get the job done. Whereas these are like a fallback for you. Okay, but try them out. I mean, try out a big squad every now and then. See how it goes. I've had quite a lot of success with them. It means they're more survivable, for example. Try out using storm bolters and things. They're not that popular, but again, exploit your advantages they give you. Remember how cheap they are, okay? And, you know, hopefully you'll have fun using them. Hopefully you'll find some new ways to use them. It keeps your opponents guessing, if nothing else. So, yeah. Hopefully that helped, and I'll see you again soon.